The bank statement hit my kitchen table like a death sentence. $340,000. Gone. Transferred to an account I'd never seen before. My son Marcus had always been my pride and joy, the boy who'd helped me build our family hardware store from nothing after his mother passed. But seeing my life savings vanish into his wife Stephanie's account, with a memo reading financial security transfer, felt like watching my son die right in front of me. I stared at that bank statement for 20 minutes, my coffee growing cold in my hands. The numbers didn't change no matter how many times I blinked. 3 decades of saving, scrimping, and building a business reduced to a single line item on a piece of paper. The worst part wasn't the money itself. It was the betrayal. 6 months ago, I'd given Marcus power of attorney after a minor heart episode landed me in the hospital for 3 days. Dr. Rodriguez said it was just stress and poor eating habits, nothing serious. But Marcus had insisted we get my affairs in order, just in case. I thought I was being responsible, preparing for the inevitable. I never imagined I was handing my son the keys to destroy my life. I picked up the phone with shaking hands and dialed Marcus' number. He answered on the 3rd ring, his voice cheerful and relaxed. "Hey, Dad. What's up?" "Marcus, I need you to explain something to me. I'm looking at my bank statement, and it shows a large transfer to someone named Stephanie Patterson. That's not your wife's maiden name." The silence stretched for several seconds. When Marcus finally spoke, his voice had changed completely. "Dad, you're getting confused again. We talked about this, remember? After your episode, we agreed it would be safer if Stephanie handled the finances. You signed the papers yourself." My blood pressure spiked. "I did no such thing. I gave you power of attorney for emergencies, not to steal my money." "Dad, please don't use that word. Nobody stole anything. Stephanie opened a joint account for better management. The money is still there. It's just in a safer place." "Safer from what?" "I've been managing my own money for 65 years without any problems. Look, why don't you come over for dinner tonight? Stephanie made pot roast. We can go over everything together and clear up this confusion." I hung up without saying goodbye. Confusion. He was calling my rightful anger confusion. This was worse than theft. This was gaslighting. I drove to Marcus' house in my old Chevy pickup, the same truck I'd learned to drive in 15 years ago. The house looked prosperous, maybe too prosperous for a man who co-owned a small auto repair shop. New vinyl siding, fresh landscaping, and a BMW in the driveway I'd never seen before. Stephanie answered the door wearing a designer dress and jewelry that probably cost more than most people made in a month. She'd always been beautiful, but there was something cold in her blue eyes that I'd never noticed before. "Dillon, what a surprise. Marcus didn't mention you were coming by. We need to talk, all 3 of us." She led me into their living room, which had been completely redecorated since my last visit. Everything was expensive, modern, and cold. Marcus emerged from the kitchen, his face pale and drawn. "Dad, I'm glad you're here. Let me explain everything. Start explaining why my life savings are in your wife's bank account." Stephanie settled into a leather chair and crossed her legs, watching me like a scientist observing an interesting specimen. "Dillon, Marcus is just trying to protect you. We've both noticed some concerning signs lately. The forgetfulness, the repetitive questions, the way you sometimes lose track of conversations. There's nothing wrong with my mind." Marcus sat down heavily on the couch. "Dad, last month you called me 3 times, asking if I'd seen your reading glasses. They were on your head every time. That's normal aging, not dementia. And 2 weeks ago you forgot you'd already paid your electric bill and sent them a second check," Stephanie added smoothly. The bank had to sort out the confusion. I felt my world tilting. These were small things, normal things. But the way they presented them made me sound incompetent. Even if that were true, it doesn't give you the right to steal from me. Marcus' composure finally cracked. "I didn't steal anything. God, Dad, I'm trying to save you from losing everything. Do you know how many elderly people get scammed every year? How many lose their savings to phone calls and fake charities and online schemes? So you decided to scam me yourselves." "It's not a scam. Marcus jumped to his feet, his face red. The money is safe. It's earning better interest in Stephanie's account. She has a financial background. She knows about investments and market fluctuations. This was about protection, not theft. Then why didn't you ask me first? The question hung in the air like smoke from a house fire. Marcus opened his mouth, then closed it. Stephanie's expression never changed. Because you would have said no, Marcus finally admitted. You would have been stubborn and suspicious and refused to listen to reason. So you took it anyway. I protected it anyway. The room fell silent except for the ticking of an expensive grandfather clock I didn't remember from previous visits. I studied my son's face, looking for the boy who used to help me sort screws and washers at the store, who'd cried when his mother died and promised to always take care of me. Marcus, I need you to understand something. Your mother and I saved every penny of that money. We went without vacations, drove old cars, mended clothes instead of buying new ones. That money represents 30 years of sacrifice and planning. It's my security, my independence, my peace of mind, and you took it without asking. I didn't take it. I moved it to an account I can't access. Dad, you can access it anytime. Just ask Stephanie. I looked at Stephanie, who smiled like a cat with cream on her whiskers. Of course, Dillon, anytime you need money, just let me know. I'll write you a check. Write me a check. From my own money. From our family's money. We're all family here. I stood up slowly, my joints protesting. I want it back. All of it. By tomorrow. Marcus' face went white. Dad, that's not possible. Some of it is already invested in CDs and bonds. There are penalties for early withdrawal. Then pay the penalties. Dad, please be reasonable. I am being reasonable. You're the one who's stolen from your father. Marcus' voice broke. I didn't steal anything. I owe some people money, okay? A lot of money. $57,000. I got in over my head with some poker games and these guys don't mess around. Stephanie said if we could just borrow from your account temporarily, just until I get caught up, everything would be fine. The truth hit me like a physical blow. This wasn't about protecting me from scams. This was about protecting Marcus from his gambling debts. My son had stolen my retirement to pay off loan sharks. How long? I asked quietly. How long what? How long have you been gambling away your life? It's not like that. I just had a string of bad luck. I'm good at poker, Dad. I usually win. This was just a rough patch. How long, Marcus? He couldn't meet my eyes. 2 years. Maybe 3. I walked toward the door, my legs unsteady. This wasn't the son he'd raised. This wasn't the man Hod promised his dying mother had always do right. Dad, please don't call the police. Let me fix this. Give me some time. I can make this right. I turned back one last time. Marcus, you broke my heart tonight, both of you. That's something you can't fix with time or money or excuses. I drove home in a daze, the familiar streets of my neighborhood blurring past the windshield. For the first time in my 65 years, I felt truly alone. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in my recliner, staring at the bank statement and trying to make sense of how my life had gone so wrong so quickly. By sunrise, I'd made 2 decisions. First, I wasn't going to roll over and accept this betrayal. Second, I needed help from someone I could trust. Pete Rodriguez had been my friend for 40 years and a private investigator for 30. We had worked together on several insurance fraud cases when I was still in business, and he owed me a few favors. More importantly, he was one of the few people who knew about my heart episode and wouldn't treat me like an invalid. I called him at 7 in the morning. Dillon, everything okay? You don't usually call this early. Pete, I need your help. My son has stolen my money, and I think there's more to this story than just gambling debts. Slow down. Tell me everything. An hour later, Pete was sitting in my kitchen, listening to the whole sorry tale while taking notes in his small leather notebook. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair and whistled softly. $340,000 is serious money, Dillon. If Marcus really owes $57,000 to loan sharks, where's the rest going? That's what I need you to find out. He'll need access to bank records, phone records if possible, and permission to conduct surveillance. Whatever it takes. Pete's investigation moved quickly. Within 2 days, he had information that turned my stomach. The bank records showed that Stephanie hadn't just received my money. She had been systematically moving funds to 3 different offshore accounts over the past 6 weeks. Small amounts, carefully structured to avoid triggering federal reporting requirements. She knows what she's doing, Pete explained as we sat in his car outside a coffee shop downtown. This isn't amateur hour. Someone taught her how to move money without leaving obvious tracks. How much has she moved? So far, about 90,000 of your money plus another 40,000 from somewhere else. Marcus' business account, maybe. The surveillance photos Pete showed me next made everything worse. Stephanie meeting with a tall, dark-haired man at various restaurants and hotels around town. The man was Derek Walsh, Marcus' business partner and co-owner of Walsh and Patterson Auto Repair. They've been meeting 3 times a week for the past month, Pete said. Always in different locations, always careful about who might see them. An affair. That's what I thought at first. But look at these. Pete handed me photographs taken with a long telephoto lens. Stephanie and Derek weren't acting like lovers. They were acting like conspirators, heads together over documents. Serious expressions. Derek handing her manila envelopes. I managed to get close enough to record part of their conversation yesterday. You need to hear this. Pete played the audio on a small digital device. The quality was grainy, but I could make out their voices clearly. Derek, how much longer do you think we can keep Marcus in the dark? Stephanie, not much longer. Hess starting to ask questions about the poker games. Hess beginning to realize the odds are too bad to be coincidence. Derek, the old man suspects something too. Marcus says has been asking about the bank transfers. Stephanie, Dillon's not as senile as we hoped. We might need to accelerate the timeline. Derek, how much more can we get out of him? Stephanie, he mentioned something about an inheritance from his sister. Could be another 200,000 if we play this right. My hands shook as Pete turned off the recorder. They've been setting Marcus up to lose at poker. Sounds like it. Derek probably has connections to the people running the games. They've been feeding Marcus insider information designed to make him lose more money, creating bigger debts. And Stephanie convinced him to steal from me to pay those debts, while she skims most of the money for herself and Derek. I felt sick. Marcus doesn't know. Based on what I've observed, your son thinks he's saving his marriage by giving his wife financial control. He has no idea she's planning to rob him blind and disappear. Pete showed me more documents, bank routing numbers, offshore account information. Dillon, I need to tell you something else. I ran Stephanie's background. Her maiden name isn't Patterson, it's Daniels. And she's done this before. What do you mean? Phoenix, Arizona, 3 years ago. She married a widower named Harold Brennan, 68 years old, owned a small chain of dry cleaners, same pattern. Convinced him she was helping manage his finances, moved his money around, then disappeared when the accounts were empty. Brennan lost $400,000 and never recovered a dime. The room spun around me. My son hadn't just made a mistake. Had married a professional predator. There's more, Pete continued. Derek Walsh has a record. Financial fraud, identity theft, money laundering. He served 18 months in federal prison 5 years ago. Why didn't this come up when Marcus went into business with him? Because Derek uses multiple aliases, and Marcus probably never ran a background check. He trusted the wrong person, just like his trusting the wrong woman. I stared at the pile of evidence on my kitchen table. Bank records, surveillance photos, criminal background reports, audio recordings. My son was a victim, but he was also a perpetrator. Had stolen from me, lied to me, and betrayed my trust. The fact that he was being manipulated didn't excuse his choices. What do you think they're planning? I asked. Based on the pattern in Phoenix, I'd say Stephanie will clean out every account she can access, then file for divorce and disappear. Derek probably has new identities ready for both of them. How long do we have? Not long. Maybe a week. Maybe less. I made my decision. Pete, I need your help with something else. Something that's going to require perfect timing and a little bit of acting. What do you have in mind? We're going to give them exactly what they want. More money than they ever dreamed of taking. And when they try to grab it, we're going to destroy them. Pete smiled grimly. I like the sound of that. What do you need me to do? First, I need you to keep watching them. Document everything. And second, I need you to help me convince my son that I'm losing my mind. Dillon, are you sure about this? Pete, they think I'm a confused old man who doesn't understand what's happening to him. Let's show them just how dangerous a confused old man can be. My plan required careful preparation and perfect timing. I spent the next morning with William Patterson, my estate attorney for the past 20 years, setting up the legal framework for what I hoped would be the most satisfying trap of my lifetime. Are you absolutely certain about this, Dillon? William asked as he reviewed the trust documents. Once we set this in motion, there's no backing out. I'm certain. My son has betrayed my trust, and his wife is a professional con artist. This is the only way to protect what's left of my assets and expose the truth. The trust structure will work exactly as you've described. Every transaction will be monitored and recorded. The moment anyone tries to withdraw or transfer funds improperly, the entire account freezes and federal authorities are notified automatically. And the inheritance story. Completely fabricated, but legally sound. As far as anyone knows, your deceased sister's estate has released additional funds to you. The documentation will pass casual inspection. How much are we talking about? $200,000 in tracked funds. When they try to steal it, they'll be caught red-handed with federal evidence. I left William's office feeling more confident than I had in days. Phase 1 was complete. Now I needed to convince Marcus that I was deteriorating mentally while simultaneously making him believe a windfall was coming. I drove home and called Marcus, making sure my voice sounded weak and confused. Marcus, it's your father. Dad, are you okay? You sound strange. I'm having a difficult day. I keep forgetting things, and I've been having chest pains again. Chest pains? Dad, you should go to the hospital. No. I just need to rest. But Marcus, I need to tell you something important before I forget. I got a call from a lawyer in Portland this morning. Portland? Why? It's about your Aunt Helen's estate. Remember your mother's sister? She died in that car accident 15 years ago. Dad, Aunt Helen died 20 years ago, and she didn't have any money. No, you're thinking of someone else. This is about the Helen who moved to Oregon. The lawyer says there's been some kind of delay with her estate, but they're finally releasing the funds. $200,000, Marcus. Can you believe it? The silence on the other end told me Marcus was calculating. Dad, are you sure about this? You've never mentioned an aunt in Oregon. Of course, I'm sure. Your mother talked about Helen all the time. She was the one who invested in that software company that got bought by Microsoft. The lawyer needs me to come in tomorrow to sign some papers. Dad, I don't think you should drive anywhere right now. You sound confused. Why don't I pick you up and, well, go together? Perfect. That would be helpful, son. I've been feeling so scattered lately. Sometimes I can't even remember where I put my reading glasses. Are you wearing them right now? I felt the glasses on my face and smiled. Oh my goodness, they're right here on my head. See what I mean? I'm losing my mind. Dad, it's going to be okay. It'll be there in an hour. Don't do anything until I get there, all right? All right. Oh, and Marcus, the lawyer said something about putting the money in a safe place until we figure out the taxes. Maybe Stephanie could help with that. She's so good with financial things. Another pause. Yeah, Dad. I'm sure she could help. Just rest until I get there. I hung up the phone and immediately called Pete. It's working. Hez coming over, and Hez definitely interested in the money. Surveillance is in place. I've got cameras on the house and their phones tapped with a federal warrant. Everything they say and do from now on will be recorded. Marcus arrived within the hour, looking worried and eager at the same time. I answered the door in my oldest clothes, moving slowly and appearing confused. Dad, you look terrible. Are you eating? I think so. I made some soup yesterday. Or was that last week? Everything runs together lately. We sat in my living room, and I handed him the fake legal documents William had prepared. They looked completely authentic, complete with letterhead from a Portland law firm and official-looking signatures. This looks real, Marcus said, studying the paperwork. Of course it's real. Why would you think it wasn't real? I didn't mean anything by it, Dad. It's just a lot of money. Your mother always said Helen was the smart one. Invested her money instead of spending it like the rest of us. Marcus read through the documents carefully. It says here you need to sign tomorrow, and the funds will be available within 48 hours. That's what the lawyer told me. But Marcus, I'm scared to handle this much money right now. My mind isn't what it used to be. What if I make a mistake? Dad, you won't make any mistakes. It'll help you. But what about after I sign? What if I forget what I did with the money? Marcus leaned forward, his voice gentle but calculating. Dad, would you feel better if we put this money in the same safe place as your other savings? Stephanie has been doing such a good job managing everything. You think that's wise? I think it's the smartest thing we could do. This way everything is in one place, properly managed, and you don't have to worry about keeping track of multiple accounts. I pretended to consider this carefully. That does sound easier. But are you sure Stephanie won't mind? She won't mind at all. She cares about you, Dad. We both do. The lies came so easily to him. I wondered how long had been lying to my face. All right, I said finally. Let's do it that way. But I want to call her myself and make sure she understands. Marcus pulled out his phone. Why don't I call her right now? You can talk to her directly. Stephanie answered on the second ring. Marcus, is everything all right? I'm here with Dad. We need to talk to you about some good news. Marcus put the phone on speaker and handed it to me. Stephanie, dear, I need to ask you a favor. Of course. Dillon, what can I do for you? I'm coming into some unexpected money from my sister's estate. About $200,000. Marcus thinks it would be wise to put it in the same safe place where you're keeping my other savings. That sounds like an excellent idea. Money management can be overwhelming, especially when you're dealing with health issues. You're so kind to help an old man like me. We're family, Dillon. Family takes care of each other. After we hung up, Marcus helped me to my bedroom, playing the role of concerned son perfectly. Dad, I want you to rest tonight. Tomorrow, well, go see the lawyer, get everything signed, and then you won't have to worry about money ever again. Thank you, son. I don't know what I'd do without you and Stephanie. You'll never have to find out. After Marcus left, I called Pete immediately. How much did you get? Everything. The phone call, the conversation about the money, Marcus discussing the transfer with Stephanie. But Dillon, you should know they're moving fast. Surveillance picked up Derek at their house 20 minutes ago. They're planning something. What kind of something? I'm not sure yet, but Stephanie made 3 phone calls after Marcus left your house. All to international numbers. Just setting up the escape route. That's my guess. Dillon, are you ready for this? Once we spring the trap tomorrow, everything changes. Your son is going to face serious legal consequences. I thought about the boy who used to help me at the hardware store, who'd cried at his mother's funeral, who'd promised to always take care of me. Pete, my son, made his choices. Now he has to live with the consequences. All right. The federal agents will be standing by tomorrow afternoon. The moment Stephanie tries to move that money, they'll move in. And Marcus, he'll be arrested as an accomplice unless he cooperates fully with the investigation. I hung up the phone and sat in the darkness of my bedroom, thinking about trust and betrayal and the moment when everything you believe about someone you love turns out to be wrong. Tomorrow, my son would learn that his father wasn't as helpless as Head believed. and I would learn whether the boy I'd raised still existed somewhere inside the man who'd stolen from me. The next morning dawned gray and cold, matching my mood perfectly. I dressed carefully in my most confused old man outfit and practiced looking frail in the bathroom mirror. At 10:30, Marcus arrived to drive me to the fake lawyer's appointment. "How are you feeling today, Dad?" "Better. A little less dizzy. I think the rest helped." We drove to William Patterson's office, where he played his role perfectly, treating me like a confused elderly client while Marcus asked pointed questions about the inheritance. The paperwork was signed, the fake transfer was initiated, and within 2 hours we were back at my house discussing how to move the money into Stephanie's account. The lawyer said it would be available by 3 o'clock, I told Marcus. "Should we call Stephanie? She's already expecting us. Why don't we go over there now?" We drove to Marcus' house, where Stephanie was waiting with Derek Walsh. This surprised me, but I played along. "Derek, what a nice surprise. I didn't know you were here." Derek smiled, but his eyes were cold. "Good to see you, Mr. Patterson. Marcus thought I might be able to help with the bank transfer. I have some experience with large financial transactions." "He'll bet you do," I thought. We all gathered around Stephanie's laptop computer while she logged into her banking website. The trust account William had created appeared on the screen, showing a balance of exactly $200,000. "There it is," Stephanie said, her voice breathless with excitement. "Dillon, this is wonderful news for your family. Can we transfer it right now?" Marcus asked. "Of course. It will just take a few minutes." Stephanie began entering the transfer information while Derek watched over her shoulder and Marcus paced nervously around the room. I sat quietly, playing my role while internally counting down the minutes until the trap would spring. "Done," Stephanie announced. "The money should be in my account within the hour." But as she refreshed the screen, something unexpected happened. Instead of showing a completed transfer, the screen displayed a security warning message. "That's strange," Derek said, leaning closer. "What does that mean?" Stephanie frowned and tried the transfer again. The same warning appeared. "There must be some kind of hold on the account," she said. "Let me call the bank." While Stephanie was on the phone, my own phone rang. It was Pete. "Dillon, we have a problem. Derek just called someone and told them the money transfer failed. They're getting suspicious." "How suspicious?" "Suspicious enough that Derek's contact is sending someone to your son's house right now." I looked around the room. Marcus was growing agitated. Derek kept checking his watch, and Stephanie was arguing with someone at the bank. "What kind of someone?" I asked Pete quietly. "The kind you don't want to meet. Dillon, you need to get out of there. Now." But before I could move, Derek's phone buzzed with a text message. He read it, and his face went pale. "We need to leave, right now." "What's wrong?" Marcus asked. "The poker game people. They think you've been playing them. Someone told them about your father's money and they're pissed." Stephanie hung up the phone, her face flushed with anger. "The bank says there's a federal hold on the account. They can't tell me anything else." Marcus looked confused. "Federal hold? What does that mean?" Derek grabbed Stephanie's arm. "It means we've been set up. Someone's been watching us." That's when I saw Marcus' phone lighting up with incoming calls. He answered on the third ring. "Hello." Even from across the room, I could hear the angry voice on the other end. Marcus' face went white. "I don't understand. What do you mean I've been lying to you?" The voice got louder and angrier. Marcus moved toward the window, looking out at the street nervously. No, you don't understand. My father really does have money. We just transferred it. There's just some kind of bank delay." Derek was throwing papers into a briefcase, while Stephanie frantically closed browser windows on her computer. "Marcus, we have to go," Derek said urgently. "These people don't mess around." "Go where?" Marcus demanded. "What's happening?" "Your poker buddies think you've been lying about having money to pay them back. Someone told them you've been stalling, but I haven't been stalling. The money is right there in the account." Derek grabbed Marcus by the shoulders. "Marcus, listen to me. Sometimes these accounts get frozen during investigations. Federal investigations. Do you understand what I'm telling you?" I watched the pieces click together in Marcus' mind. He looked at me, then at Stephanie's computer, then back at Derek. Someone's been investigating us. That's what it looks like. Marcus turned to me, his face a mixture of fear and dawning realization. Dad, did you know about this? Before I could answer, Stephanie's phone rang. She looked at the caller ID and her face went dead white. It's my contact in Phoenix. They only call when there's serious trouble. She answered the call, listened for 30 seconds, then hung up without saying a word. What did they say? Derek asked. Someone's been asking questions about Harold Brennan, the old man from Phoenix. They think the FBI might be building a case. Derek and Stephanie looked at each other with the kind of understanding that comes from years of running cons together. Then they both looked at me. You clever old bastard, Derek said quietly. You've been setting us up. Marcus stepped between us. Setting us up for what? Dad, what's he talking about? Your father isn't as confused as he's been pretending, Stephanie said, her voice venomous. Are you, Dillon? I stood up slowly, abandoning the confused old man act completely. No, Stephanie, I'm not confused at all. I know exactly who you are and what you've been doing. Marcus stared at me in shock. Dad, I know about Phoenix and Harold Brennan. I know about Derek's criminal record. I know about the rigged poker games and the offshore accounts, and I know you've been planning to steal every penny I have and then disappear. The room fell silent except for the sound of Derek's phone buzzing with urgent text messages. How long have you known? Marcus asked quietly. Long enough to set a trap that's about to close on all of you. That's when we heard the sound of car doors slamming outside. Derek looked out the window and cursed. There are 3 cars out there. Black sedans. Federal plates. Stephanie was already moving toward the back door. There's a way out through the garage. We can make it to Derek's car. But Marcus wasn't moving. He was staring at me with a mixture of betrayal and dawning comprehension. Dad, what did you do? What I had to do. What you forced me to do when you stole from me. Derek grabbed Stephanie's hand. We need to go now. Marcus, you can come with us, or you can stay and face the music. But we're leaving. Marcus looked at Derek, then at Stephanie, then at me. Stephanie, is it true? About Phoenix and the other man? Stephanie's mask finally slipped completely. God, Marcus, you really are as stupid as your senile father. Did you actually think I married you for love? Look at you. You're pathetic. A loser who can't even win at poker without help. Help? Derek laughed bitterly. Those games were rigged. You idiot. We'd been setting you up to lose so you'd get desperate enough to steal from your father. The whole thing was a setup. Marcus staggered backward as if head been punched. But you said you loved me. I said what I needed to say to get access to your family's money. Just like I said what I needed to say to Harold Brennan and the man before him, and the man before him. The front door exploded open and federal agents poured into the room, guns drawn and badges visible. Federal Bureau of Investigation. Nobody move. Derek made a run for the back door but was tackled by 2 agents before he reached it. Stephanie tried to delete something from her phone but had it knocked out of her hands. Marcus just stood there in shock as Agent Sarah Martinez read him his rights. Marcus Patterson, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit elder fraud, money laundering, and theft of funds exceeding $50,000. Dad, Marcus said as the handcuffs clicked shut. Dad, what did you do? I looked at my son, the boy Id raised alone after his mother died. The young man who'd helped me build a business and who'd promised to always take care of me. I protected myself, I said quietly, because you wouldn't. The federal courthouse in Cleveland was busier than Id expected on a Wednesday morning. I sat in the hallway outside Agent Martinez's office, waiting to give my formal statement, when Marcus' court-appointed attorney approached me. Mr. Patterson? I'm Jennifer Walsh, Marcus' defense attorney. Could we talk for a few minutes? She was young, maybe 35, with the kind of determined expression that suggested she'd been a prosecutor before switching sides. What about your son's future? Agent Martinez tells me you've been cooperating with the investigation. But I need you to understand something about the charges Marcus is facing. We sat down on a wooden bench outside the courtroom, Hess looking at 15 to 20 years in federal prison. She said quietly, conspiracy, elder fraud, money laundering. Even if he cooperates fully, the sentencing guidelines are severe. What are you asking me? I'm asking if you're willing to listen to what really happened before you decide how much you want to help the prosecution destroy your son. Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet with Marcus that afternoon. The federal holding facility was sterile and depressing, all concrete and fluorescent lights. Marcus looked like he'd aged 10 years in the 3 days since his arrest. Dad, I'm sorry. I know that doesn't mean much, but I need you to know I'm sorry. We sat across from each other at a metal table, a federal marshal watching from the corner. Tell me how this started, I said. The real story. Marcus took a deep breath. 2 years ago, Derek introduced me to a private poker game. High stakes, serious players, big money. I started winning right away. 3,000, 5,000, sometimes 8,000 in a single night. But you didn't stop when you were ahead. The wins felt so good, Dad. After Mom died, after we struggled so hard to build the business, it felt like I was finally getting somewhere. Like I was providing for my family the way you always provided for us. When did it turn around? About a year ago. The losses started coming, but Derek kept telling me it was just bad luck, that my winning streak would come back. He introduced me to bigger games with higher stakes. And Stephanie. Marcus' face crumpled. She was so supportive at first. When I'd lose, she'd comfort me. When I'd win, she'd celebrate with me. She made me feel like the most important man in the world. When did she start suggesting you use my money? 6 months ago, when the debts got really bad. She said elderly people lost money to scams all the time, and at least this way it would stay in the family. She convinced me you were showing signs of dementia. Was I? No, Dad, you were just getting older. And I let myself believe what I wanted to believe because it made the stealing easier. Marcus started crying. Deep, shoulder-shaking sobs that seemed to come from somewhere fundamental inside him. Dad, I destroyed everything. My marriage was fake, my business partner was using me, and I betrayed the one person who ever truly loved me. Agent Martinez appeared in the doorway. Mr. Patterson, we need to discuss the cooperation agreement. In her office, Agent Martinez laid out the scope of the investigation. Stephanie Daniels is part of a network that's been targeting elderly Americans across 6 states. We've identified at least 12 victims, with total losses exceeding $3 million. Derek Walsh has been recruiting local accomplices in each city. What about Marcus? Your son was a victim and a perpetrator. He was manipulated, but he also made conscious choices to steal from you. However, his cooperation could be valuable. What kind of cooperation? Stephanie and Derek are planning to plead not guilty and claim your son was the mastermind. They'll argue he manipulated them into helping him steal from his own father. The irony was staggering. And you want Marcus to testify against them. If he testifies truthfully about how they recruited him, how the poker games were rigged, and how Stephanie convinced him to steal from you, we can put both of them away for 25 years or more. What happens to Marcus? Reduced charges. Probably 3 to 5 years, with the possibility of home confinement for part of the sentence. I looked through the window at the city where I'd lived my entire life, where I'd built a business and raised a family and thought I understood how the world worked. Agent Martinez, can I ask you something? Of course. Do you think my son is genuinely remorseful, or is he just scared? She considered the question carefully. Mr. Patterson, I've been investigating financial crimes for 15 years. Most perpetrators are sorry they got caught, not sorry they committed the crimes. But your son has been different, has provided detailed information without being asked, has taken responsibility for his actions, and is genuinely concerned about the harm he caused you. That doesn't excuse what he did. No, it doesn't, but it might explain why he did it. That evening, I sat in my kitchen with Pete, looking at the stack of evidence we'd assembled. How are you holding up? Pete asked. I feel like I've won a war but lost my family. Dillon, you did the right thing. If you hadn't stopped them, they would have taken everything and disappeared. I know, but knowing that doesn't make it hurt less. Pete poured us both coffee from the pot. It made too strong the way I always did when I was stressed. What are you going to do about Marcus? I don't know. Has my son, but he stole from me. Has a victim, but he's also a criminal. How do I reconcile those two things? Maybe you don't reconcile them. Maybe you just accept them both as true. The next morning, I called Marcus' attorney and agreed to support the cooperation agreement. Not because I forgave him, but because I wanted him to have a chance to earn forgiveness. 3 weeks later, Stephanie Daniels and Derek Walsh were indicted on 17 federal charges, including conspiracy, elder fraud, money laundering, and racketeering. Marcus pled guilty to conspiracy and agreed to testify against both of them. But it was during the family therapy sessions required as part of Marcus' plea agreement that I learned the most devastating truth of all. Marcus, doctor, Rebecca Foster asked during our third session, "When did you first start gambling seriously?" "About 3 years ago." "What was happening in your life at that time?" Marcus looked at me, then at the floor. "I found some letters." "What kind of letters?" "Letters from my mother to someone named Robert. Love letters. They were hidden in a box of her belongings that Dad asked me to clean out." The room went silent. I felt my heart stop. "The letters were from the year before she died." Marcus continued quietly. "She was having an affair." Dr. Foster looked at me. "Dillon, did you know about this?" "No," I whispered. "I never knew." Marcus finally looked up at me. "Dad, I read those letters and I felt like everything I believed about our family was a lie. Mom wasn't the perfect woman I remembered. You weren't the husband who was completely loved and devoted to. Everything felt fake. Why didn't you tell me?" "Because you were grieving, and because I didn't want to destroy the only good memories you had left. But I couldn't handle knowing that secret. So I started gambling as a way to escape." Dr. Foster leaned forward. "And when you met Stephanie?" "She reminded me of Mom. Beautiful, charming, attentive. But I think part of me always suspected she was lying, just like Mom had been lying. And maybe I thought I deserved to be with someone who would betray me. I stared at my son and realized that he'd been wrong about everything. Marcus hadn't just stolen my money, had been carrying the weight of his mother's betrayal for 3 years, trying to protect me from the same pain I'd been living with. Marcus, those letters, do you still have them?" "I burned them." I couldn't stand knowing that secret anymore. For the first time since this nightmare began, I reached across the table and took my son's hand. "I'm sorry you had to carry that alone. Dad, I'm sorry I made everything worse by lying to you too." Dr. Foster watched us both carefully. "Dillon, how does this new information change how you feel about Marcus' actions?" "It doesn't excuse what he did, but it explains it. And maybe that's the first step toward figuring out how to move forward." The trial of Stephanie Daniels and Derek Walsh began on a cold Tuesday morning in February. I sat in the gallery, watching my son take the witness stand to testify against the people who had manipulated him into betraying me. Marcus was nervous but determined. He told the jury about the rigged poker games, the mounting debts, and Stephanie's gradual campaign to convince him that I was losing my mental capacity. "She was very subtle about it," Marcus explained to the prosecutor. "She'd point out small things, normal things that elderly people do, and make them sound like warning signs. She convinced me that my father was vulnerable and that we needed to protect his money from scammers. But you were the ones scamming him," the prosecutor pointed out. "Yes, ma'am. I understand that now." Stephanie's defense attorney tried to paint Marcus as the mastermind, claiming Head manipulated both her and Derek into helping him steal from his own father. "Isn't it true, Mr. Patterson, that you approached my client about accessing your father's money?" "No, sir. Stephanie suggested it first. She said elderly people lose their money to phone scams all the time, and that at least this way it would stay in the family." "But you agreed with this suggestion?" "Yes, sir. I was desperate and scared, and I wanted to believe her." "So you stole from your father?" Marcus looked directly at me before answering. "Yes, sir. I stole from my father. It was wrong, and I'll regret it for the rest of my life. The prosecution presented recordings of Stephanie's conversations with Derek, bank records showing the systematic movement of money to offshore accounts, and evidence of her previous crimes in Arizona and Nevada. When Stephanie took the stand in her own defense, she claimed to be another victim of Derek's manipulation. I truly believed we were helping Marcus protect his father's money, she testified. Derek told me that elderly financial abuse was a serious problem and that we were preventing it by managing the funds ourselves. But the recorded conversations Pete had obtained destroyed her credibility completely. When the prosecutor played the audio of Stephanie calling me senile and discussing how to accelerate their timeline, several jurors looked disgusted. Derek's testimony was even worse. He tried to claim that the poker games were legitimate and that Marcus had lost money through his own poor judgment. I never rigged anything, he insisted. Marcus Patterson was just a bad poker player who couldn't accept responsibility for his losses. But the federal agents had found marked cards, electronic devices for card counting, and records of Derek's communications with the people running the games. His credibility evaporated within an hour. The jury deliberated for less than 6 hours, guilty on all counts for both defendants. At Stephanie's sentencing 3 months later, I was allowed to give a victim impact statement. Your Honor, the defendant didn't just steal my money. She stole my trust in my son, my confidence in my own judgment, and my sense of security in my own home. She exploited my love for my family and turned it into a weapon against me. I looked directly at Stephanie as I continued. But you failed in the end. You thought you could destroy my family, but instead you showed us what we really mean to each other. Stephanie received 25 years in federal prison. Derek received 22 years. Both were ordered to pay restitution totaling $4.2 million to their various victims. Marcus received 3 years in federal prison with the possibility of home confinement for the final year if he continued cooperating with ongoing investigations. But the most important changes happened outside the courtroom. Marcus and I began meeting with Dr. Foster every week, working through decades of unspoken pain and misunderstanding. We talked about his mother's affair, about the pressure Head felt to live up to impossible expectations, about my own failures as a father to recognize his struggles. I think I was so focused on being strong for you after Mom died that I never let myself be vulnerable. Marcus told me during one particularly difficult session, and I think you were so focused on protecting me that you never let yourself grieve properly. Maybe we were both trying to be something we weren't, I replied. Maybe we were both trying to be perfect instead of just being human. The hardware store had suffered during the months of legal proceedings, but our customers and neighbors rallied around us in ways I never expected. People brought casseroles, offered to help with inventory, and shared their own stories of family struggles and reconciliation. Mrs. Henderson, who'd been shopping at our store for 30 years, put it best. Dillon, families aren't perfect. They're just people trying to love each other despite their flaws. What matters is that you both keep trying. Marcus was released to home confinement after serving 18 months with an electronic monitor and strict supervision. He moved back into my house, sleeping in his childhood bedroom and working at the store during approved hours. It wasn't easy. There were days when the hurt and anger overwhelmed both of us. Days when Marcus struggled with guilt and shame. Days when I wondered if trust could ever be fully rebuilt. But there were also moments of grace. Marcus teaching me how to use the store's new computer system, working together to help an elderly customer fix an old lawnmower, sharing dinner and talking about everything except the elephant in the room. The real breakthrough came on a Saturday afternoon 6 months after his release. We were closing the store together when Marcus found me sitting in the office, staring at a photograph of his mother. Dad, can I ask you something? Of course. Do you think Mom would be proud of the man I've become? I looked at the picture, at the woman I'd loved despite her imperfections, and realized something important. Marcus, your mother made mistakes. She hurt people she loved, but she also raised a son who was willing to face the consequences of his actions and work to make things right. I think she'd be proud of the man you're becoming. Even after everything I did, especially after everything you did. Because you didn't just fall down, son. You got back up. Marcus started crying, And for the first time in 3 years, I held my son and let him cry without trying to fix anything. A year later, Marcus met Sarah Williams at a Gamblers Anonymous meeting. She was a nurse who'd lost her house and car to slot machine addiction before getting clean. Their first conversation lasted 6 hours. She knows everything about my past. Marcus told me when he asked for my blessing to marry her. The gambling, the stealing, the prison time. And she still wants to build a life with me. "What do you want?" I asked. "I want to be the man she sees when she looks at me. I want to be the son you raised instead of the criminal I became." "Marcus, you're already both of those men. The question is which one you choose to be going forward." The wedding was small, held in the backyard behind our store with folding chairs borrowed from the church and flowers from Sarah's garden. As I walked Marcus down the aisle to give him away, I realized that redemption isn't about erasing the past. It's about building something better on top of it. 2 years later, Marcus has paid back every penny he stole, plus interest. The hardware store thrives with both of us, working side by side again. Has been clean from gambling for 18 months, married to a good woman named Sarah who knows his whole story. When I watch him help elderly customers with the same patience I once showed him, I see the man I raised before pain and poor choices led him astray. Trust, once broken, can heal stronger than before, but only when both people choose accountability over excuses and love over enabling. Some betrayals become the foundation for deeper truth. Marcus and Sarah are expecting their first child this spring, a daughter they plan to name Helen after the grandmother shall never meet. We talk openly now about family history, about the difference between perfection and goodness, about how secrets can poison relationships while honesty can heal them. The federal agents recovered most of the money Stephanie and Derek had stolen from their other victims. 12 elderly Americans got their life savings back because Marcus had the courage to testify truthfully about what had witnessed. Dr. Foster says our family sessions are some of the most successful she's ever conducted, not because we avoided consequences, but because we faced them together. The pain of betrayal taught us both that love without honesty is just another form of manipulation. Pete still stops by the store every week, usually bringing coffee and stories about his latest cases. "You know what I've learned from 40 years of investigation," he told me recently. "The truth always comes out eventually. The only choice people have is whether they reveal it themselves or wait for someone else to expose it." I've started speaking at community centers about financial fraud protection for seniors, not because I enjoy telling the story, but because other families deserve to know the warning signs we missed. The most important message I share isn't about money management or legal protections. It's about the danger of making assumptions about the people we love. I assumed Marcus was the same honest boy had always been. He assumed I was the same strong father who could handle anything. We both failed to see that people change, that pain can twist good intentions into destructive choices, and that love requires constant attention and honest communication. The hardware store has become something more than a business. It's a place where 3 generations of our family have learned that strength isn't about avoiding mistakes. It's about taking responsibility for them and working to repair the damage they cause. Sometimes customers ask about the time when all that trouble happened with my son. I tell them the truth. That betrayal nearly destroyed our family, but choosing forgiveness over bitterness allowed us to rebuild something stronger. Marcus keeps a photo of his mother on his workshop bench. Not because she was perfect, but because she was human. Sarah keeps a photo of their sonogram next to it, representing the future they're building together. And I keep working every day to be the father my son needs now, not the father he needed 20 years ago. Because the greatest gift we can give the people we love isn't protection from consequences. It's the assurance that we'll stand with them as they face those consequences and work to become better than they were before. Now, I want to ask you something. Have you ever had to choose between protecting someone you love and holding them accountable for their actions? How did you find the balance between forgiveness and justice? Share your thoughts in the comments below because these conversations help all of us understand how to love people through their worst moments while still expecting them to do better. If this story touched your heart or made you think differently about family, forgiveness, and second chances, please hit the like button and share it with someone who might benefit from hearing it. And don't forget to subscribe for more real stories about real people facing impossible choices and finding their way through them. Thank you for listening to my story. And remember that no matter how badly someone has hurt you, healing is possible when both people commit to honesty, accountability, and the hard work of rebuilding trust. I hope your families find the same peace and understanding that Marcus and I discovered on the other side of our darkest moment.